It's been praised as a once-in-a-generational investment and criticized as a ticking economic time bomb. From energy to healthcare to jobs, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act can impact nearly every aspect of your life. But will it actually help the average American or make them pay the price? Let's go. On July 4th, 2025, President Donald Trump signed into law H.R.1, or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which was a part of his second-term domestic agenda. Now, the bill passed the Senate with razor-thin margins of 51 to 50, with Vice President J.D. Vance providing the tie-breaking vote. Then the bill, along with an amendment, went to the House, where again it was also passed with a vote of 218 to 214. Branded as a sweeping tax and spending reshuffle, the bill's name was more of a slogan than a statute. Its official short title was removed during Senate amendments, but regardless, it includes countless provisions across taxes, healthcare, immigration, climate, and defense. Now, there's a lot of parts to this act, and in reality, it could probably be like a 3-hour video. But for this video specifically, I want to cover the part of the acts that will have immediate effects, but also massive long-term effects. So, an example that I'm not going to really talk about is the Spaceship Challenger moving from the Smithsonian to Houston with a price tag of $85 million, right? A lot of money. It's a big deal, right? But for a bill that involves billions, if not trillions of dollars, and that could potentially affect every single American, it's not that much of a priority. But so anyway, here are the aspects of the act that I think everyday Americans should know about. First is the tax and fiscal measures. Now, there's going to be a permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts. Now, this act makes permanent the individual tax rates established by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which was set to expire at the end of 2025. There's also going to be a child tax credit increase, which is increased by $200 per child, with future adjustments for inflation starting in 2026. Next, the SALT deduction cap, or the state and local tax deduction cap, is temporarily increased to $40,000 for taxpayers making less than $500,000, with a cap reverting to $10,000 after 5 years. Basically, for 6-figure households in state with high taxes, people will be able to deduct more off their taxes. Speaking of taxes, there will be new tax deductions for tips, overtime pay, auto loans, and it will be effective through 2028. Another thing that was talked about a lot was the Trump account, which establishes tax-deferred savings accounts for children with government contributions and parent deposits allowed through 2028. Next is senior tax relief, providing an additional $6,000 standard deduction for individuals aged 65 and older, effective through 2028. The debt ceiling was also increased by $5 trillion, and Social Security benefits will no longer be taxed. Moving on, we have changes to healthcare and social programs. Now, the act will implement a 12% reduction in Medicaid spending, including new work requirements and cost sharing for certain enrollees. Now, SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, will be expanding work requirements for recipients and shift some of the program costs to states. And rural healthcare funding, establishing a $50 billion rural hospital fund to support healthcare providers in rural areas. Now, defense and border security was a huge aspect of the act, which will now allocate $150 billion into defense spending, provide an additional $150 billion for border enforcement and deportations, and increase funding for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, from $10 billion to over $100 billion by 2029, making it the most funded law enforcement agency in the federal government. Now, the act also makes some major changes to our environmental and energy policies. There will be clean energy rollbacks, which will phase out clean energy tax credits from the Biden-era Inflation Reductions Act and promote fossil fuels over renewable energy. And also semiconductor manufacturing incentives, which will increase in tax credits for advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Now, there are some aspects of this act that really didn't fit in the categories that I had above, but they go to show how far-reaching this act actually is. Air traffic control modernization, a $12.5 billion program to overhaul the nation's outdated system. The college endowments tax, with universities with massive investment accounts now facing new taxes. And the remittance fees. Sending money abroad now carries extra costs, a move to aim discouraging money flow out of the United States. Now that we've broken down the major aspects of the bill, we need to talk about the effects that it's going to have, but also the backlash and the praise that it's receiving. A major concern is the national debt, and the Congressional Budget Office projects that the act will add approximately $4.1 trillion to the deficit through 2023, with some estimates including interest reaching as high as $5 trillion in total cost. There's also the tax revenue loss, projected to cut about $4.45 trillion in tax revenue over a 10-year period. And the Social Security strain. Though taxes on Social Security benefits are eliminated, which is a welcome boost to seniors, analysts warn that this move may accelerate the depletion of Social Security Trust Fund, potentially shortening its lifespan. Now, other major concerns are like the environmental rollbacks. So by phasing out the clean energy tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, the legislation sidelines renewable energy and promotes fossil fuel, raising alarms that the US could fall behind in the global clean energy race and cost thousands of clean energy jobs in the process. There is also immigration, which is a huge thing that people are concerned about. The act expands funding for ICE and border enforcement to unprecedented levels. Many people are concerned with government overreach, workforce disruption, humanitarian concerns, civil liberty concerns, and the root causes being ignored. Also, Medicaid and food stamps. The act slashes Medicaid by nearly $1 trillion over 10 years, potentially causing 10 to 12 million Americans to lose health coverage. Moreover, cuts to SNAP, which is the food stamps, are projected to jeopardize school meals for millions of children, with estimates showing 18 million kids could lose access to critical nutrition programs. And income distribution. Households in the top 10% will see an average gain of $13,600 per year. Middle-income households will see a modest gain of $800 to $1,200 a year, and households in the lowest 10% will lose about $1,200 annually. While critics point out deep cuts and skewed benefits, supporters point to several wins for working families and the economy. They mention the tax relief for families. The act is projected to cut taxes for families making under $50,000 by 14.9%, with 2/3 of the cuts going to households making under $500,000. There's also the middle class boost, where the average family of 4 could see their take-home pay rise by about $10,900 over the next decade, while tipped and hourly wagers benefit from new exemptions on tips and overtime pay. There's also jobs and growth. Supporters claim that the act will help create or preserve 7.2 million jobs, including about 1.4 million jobs in manufacturing, and boost the GDP growth by about 4.9% in the first 4 years. There's also the senior benefits that I mentioned earlier. Yes, it will accelerate the depletion of the trust. However, on the flip side, it ensures seniors keep more of their benefits at a time when many are struggling with the high cost of living. Studies show that over 60% of seniors rely on Social Security for 51% to 100% of their income. Now, the verdict on the act is split. What did you expect? This is America, right? Anyway, roughly 85% of Democrats have an unfavorable opinion, while about 61% of Republicans have a favorable opinion. But overall, it's about a 64% unfavorable opinion. Now, this act covers a lot of things, many different things that have nothing to do with each other. So you may like this thing and you may hate this thing, but overall there's a fair chance that you'll like some and like others, and it'll probably be a mixed opinion about the bill. But anyway, there's a lot of things that I didn't cover in the act, so let me know in the comments down below some things that you wish I covered, but then also some aspects of the bill that you didn't know about and that you're very surprised about and will think to have a major impact on the country. And with that, I'm Evan, and thanks for watching. If you liked what you just saw, then click on the video here. Also, if you haven't, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos.